There is a moment, just before the sun clears the horizon on the longest day of the year, when the light hits this place in a way that stops everything, a pale gold shaft, cutting through the cold English morning, falling across stones that have stood in this exact position for 4,000 years, stones that were placed here with such precision, that this moment, this exact quality of light, on this exact morning, was not an accident. It was the whole point. And standing here in that light, surrounded by these stones, feeling the weight of what you cannot explain, you understand for the first time why human beings have been coming to this place for 12,000 years, not as tourists, not as pilgrims, but as something older than either, something that does not have a word anymore, because the civilization that understood it is gone. This is Stonehenge. And everything you think you know about it is only the beginning. For generations we have been given a version of this story that fits neatly into our assumptions about the ancient world. Ancient farmers, they say, simple Neolithic communities, who gathered here to honor the dead. To mark the seasons. To appeal to gods whose names we will never know. They moved the stones with ropes and wooden sledges, they say. Remarkable but explainable. A triumph of human determination. Over the limitations of primitive technology. It is a comfortable story. But comfort and truth are not always the same thing, because the closer you get to these stones, the longer you stand here in the wind that never stops blowing across this plain, the more carefully you look at what is actually in front of you, the more that comfortable story begins to fracture along fault lines that mainstream archaeology. Has spent decades trying not to look at directly. These sarsen stones rising around you, each one weighing between 20 and 25 tons, were quarried from a site 25 miles north of here. They were shaped, they were transported, they were raised, they were fitted at the top with horizontal lintels, lifted for meters off the ground, and locked into place with carved joints that interlock like furniture joinery. In stone, weighing tons, for meters in the air. With no wheels. No cranes. No iron tools. No draft animals capable of bearing this load. Modern engineering teams have tried to recreate this. The experiments have been careful. They have been well funded. They have been conducted by serious people with serious equipment. And not one of them has successfully replicated the full process at true scale, because when you actually attempt it, when you stand in a field with ropes and timber, and a 25-ton block of sandstone, the gap between the official explanation. And physical reality becomes impossible to ignore. But the sarsen stones are not what keeps researchers awake at night. These smaller stones in the inner circle, these are bluestones, a specific type of spotted diorite. Found naturally in only one place on Earth. The Preseli Hills. In Pembrokeshire. Wales. 250 miles. From where you are standing. There are over 80 of them here. Every single one carried from the same distant mountains, across 250 miles of ancient British landscape. Dense forest. Rivers. Boggy ground. Coastal water. No roads. No wheels. Just human will. And whatever knowledge these people possessed, that we have not yet recovered. Why those stones? Why that specific rock from that specific mountainside in Wales? When perfectly adequate stone existed far closer to this site. Why make the journey? Why pay that price in labor and time and lives? Why was it worth it? Because it was worth it to them. Extraordinarily worth it. Worth a generational commitment of resources and effort. That implies those specific stones from that specific place were not interchangeable with anything else. Those stones meant something. Something we have lost the language to understand. And then there is the sky. Stand here at dawn on the summer solstice. And watch what happens. The sun rises. And its first light travels in perfect alignment with the axis of this monument, striking the central altar stone with a precision that requires not just intent, but sustained sophisticated astronomical observation over an extended period of time, tracking the solar cycle. Recording it, refining the measurement, generation after generation, until the knowledge was precise enough to encode permanently into the orientation of these stones. This is not primitive. This is not lucky. This is not the accidental achievement of simple farming communities, marking time in the English countryside. This is science. Ancient. Rigorous, systematic science. Practiced by people whose intellectual capabilities and whose understanding of the natural world. We have consistently and catastrophically underestimated. And Stonehenge was not built in isolation. Across this landscape in every direction, The earth holds monuments. Silbury Hill rising to the south, the largest prehistoric earthwork in Europe, a massive artificial mound, whose interior has never been fully understood. Ave buried to the north, a stone circle so vast that a village sits inside it. The West Kennet Long Barrow. Ancient beyond almost any other standing structure in Britain. The Cursus, a vast earthwork running for nearly 3 kilometers across the plain, whose purpose has defied every explanation offered for it. This entire landscape was designed, not by scattered isolated communities making independent ritual gestures, but by a civilization with the organizational capacity and the long-range planning capability to conceive and execute a project spanning hundreds of square kilometers over multiple generations, a civilization operating at a level of complexity and sophistication that the conventional picture of Neolithic Britain has never been able to fully account for. And here is the detail that changes everything. Long before the first stone was ever raised here, human beings were already building at this site, buried beneath the ground near the entrance of this place. Archaeologists found a series of massive pine post holes, carbon dated to approximately 8000 BC, 6,000 years before Stonehenge as we know it was even begun. 6,000 years. Someone was constructing large deliberate structures on this exact ridge at the edge of the last ice age, 6,000 years before the culture that built the stone circles even existed, and they chose this specific place, this specific ground, in this vast landscape. Why here? What did they know about this place? What did they feel standing on this ridge that made it different from every other ridge in southern England? What drew human beings back to this exact location, generation after generation, across 12,000 years of history? That is the question that mainstream archaeology has never been willing to ask with the seriousness it deserves, because asking it honestly leads somewhere that the conventional timeline of human prehistory is not prepared to go. It leads toward the possibility that the significance of this place stretches back not just 4,000 years, but to the very edge of human memory. To a time before the civilizations we know, before the histories we have written, before the assumptions we have built our entire understanding of human development upon. And that possibility has consequences, because if this landscape was sacred to people living 12,000 years ago, if the astronomical knowledge encoded in Stonehenge represents not a sudden local achievement, but the endpoint of a tradition of sky watching and mathematical understanding, stretching back far beyond what we can currently see, then the story of human civilization is not the story we have been telling. It is older. It is deeper. It is more extraordinary. And it involves losses so complete that we have mistaken the silence for absence for all of human history. The people who came after catastrophe have looked at what survived and called it primitive, called it simple, called it the beginning. But what if it was not the beginning? What if what we are looking at here in these stones raised with such impossible precision, aligned with such sophisticated astronomical knowledge, transported from such impossible distances, is not the first chapter of the human story? What if it is an echo of something that came before, something that understood this place, something that knew things about the sky and the earth, and the movement of time, that we are only now beginning to rediscover, and something that is still here, still encoded in these stones, still speaking in the language of light and shadow, and the slow turning of the year, still waiting for the moment when we stop telling ourselves comfortable stories about ropes and wooden sledges, and simple farming communities and finally have the courage to ask what this place really is, who really built it, what they really knew, and why after 12,000 years of human beings returning to this ridge in the wind and the rain of the English plain, we still feel it, that thing without a name, that pull toward these stones, that sense of something enormous just beyond the reach of understanding. It is not superstition. It is memory. The oldest memory our species has, and it is carved in stone, right here. Still standing, still waiting for us to remember. For more ancient mysteries, make sure you subscribe and check out our other videos, because some of the greatest secrets in human history are not hidden underground. They are standing in plain sight, waiting for us to finally see them. Thanks for watching. And until next time, stay curious.